Tat Padam Pariyaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayate Om. Namaskaram. I'm Yogacharini Kalavathi Devi from Wales in the UK. I'd like to start by thanking Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth University and the Centre for Yoga Therapy, Education and Research for inviting me to talk to you, teach you a little on the Gitananda Yoga techniques for health and wellness. So I've decided that I would like to start by teaching everybody to breathe. There's lots of videos out there, lots of classes out there that teach you how to move your body, teach you different physical practices of yoga, but there's very little really out there that enables you to learn how to breathe correctly. So that's what I'm going to do this session on this morning. So if you would like to just start just stretching the legs, I'm just going to loosen up a little, so just give the legs a little bump and a little shake. Just open the feet. I'm going to roll the feet in and out. So we're just going to loosen the body up a little just to get the circulation moving, get the energy moving in the body. Just start to bend the knees. A little bit of thumping, a little bit of shaking. Just releasing any tensions in the body. Just circling both of the feet, making as big a circle as you can. And the other way. And then, just pick up the right foot, using the hand, a little bit of bouncing of the knee. And then the left side, just a little bit of just pushing that knee up and down, getting some movement into the hips, into the pelvic area. We're going to be doing a lot of kneeling for this learning to breathe. So it's good to loosen up a little beforehand. Just stretch the legs, a little bit of toe touching. And again, thumping and shaking. Just stretch the arms. I'm just going to move one finger at a time, tapping it into the palms. And stretching and clenching. And rotating with the wrists. And the other way. And rotating the elbows. And the other way. Roll the shoulders. And the other way. Get as much movement in as you can, just to release any tension. I'm just going to lower the chin down to the chest. Breathing in, taking the head to the right side and to the back. And then as you breathe out, taking the head to the left and back down to the front. So breathing in, taking the head to the right side and the back. Breathing out to the left side and down to the front. And again, breathing in as you lift. And breathing out as you lower. We'll go 3 times around to the left side, so breathing in as you lift. And breathing out as you lower. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. A little bit of shaking of the head. Up and down. And shake. Up and down. Alright, if you just have a sip of water, you should make sure that you drink plenty of water, especially when you're practicing any of the pranayama exercises. The pranayama is the term that we use for the yoga exercises that, in a very simplistic way, where we use the breath. They're actually much more advanced. It's all to do with energy, but in the very beginning stages, we're actually learning to breathe, which is what I'm going to teach you today. So you're not literally going to learn how to breathe in one session, but I'm going to teach you all the techniques that you can do, that you can practice, and through practice, that is how you will learn to breathe properly. So we're going to start with something called Emaki Bhastrika. This is where we blast any residual air out of the lungs. It helps to lower carbon dioxide if we have any carbon dioxide still within us. So this is a really good practice to always do at the beginning of a pranayama session or any yoga class. It's a very useful practice to do on a regular basis. So this is done from Vajrasana. Vajrasana is where we come up onto the heels. Okay, the heels are kept together. And what we do is we take a very deep breath in, and then through Kaki Mudra, which is where we purse the lips as if we were going to whistle, we're going to blast the air out in short blasts as we go forwards and down. When the head is on the floor, the lungs will be completely empty. So we're not breathing in and out. It's one deep breath in, but short bursts of air out as we put our head down on the floor. So we're going to do this 3 times. We'll start with the hands on the thighs. Take a deep breath in. Blasting out. Lift the head, look up, breathing in as you come up. Again. Lifting the head, look up, breathing in as you come back up. One last time. Then you're going to stay with your head down on the floor. Now tuck your nose to your knees so you get the very top of your head on the floor. And take the arms back and just gently catch the soles of your feet. Just rest here and just breathe slowly. And lift the head to look up, breathing in as you come up. And then with the out breath, you're going to place the right hand behind you and then the left, just leaning on the hands. Just do a gentle back bend, balancing the energy of the forward bend. And then you breathe in, pushing up with the right arm. So just stretch the legs out a moment, just while I give you a little introduction to the lungs. Clearly hopefully we all have 2 lungs. We have a left and a right lung, okay? Each of the lungs are split into segments. So the right lung is split into 3 what we call lobes, which is, you have the abdominal area here, you have the mid-chest through here, and the upper lung is up here. And they're all contained, you feel the ribs, they're all contained within that rib cage. The right lobe actually, the right lung is actually split into 3 lobes, and the left lung is actually split into 2 lobes. This is because the left lung area is where the heart is, a little more on the left side. So because of that, physically, the left lobe is only sort of has the 2 divisions, but actually where we breathe into the lungs, we still breathe in the same way. So we still have these 3 separate divisions when we breathe into the lungs. You have the low abdominal area, you have the mid-chest area, and you have the upper lungs. So 2 lungs with the low, the mid, and the upper. We also have a front and the sides and the back area. So you have the front area here, you have the sides here, and then the hands around onto the back for the back area. So you have front, sides, and back of the low. You have front, sides, back of the mid-chest, and front, sides, and back of the upper lung area. So that's actually 18 different parts of the lungs that you can breathe into. When you breathe, practice learning to breathe, and you get that conscious control over the lungs, you can actually at will breathe into any of these areas of the lungs at your own command. So that's, when obviously a lot of practice is there and you've really got to feel the lungs and, feel the different areas and really get to know them. So we're going to be starting off with the low abdominal area. The interesting thing about the lungs is they actually work with our body. And since this is to do with general health and wellness, the lungs actually have an awful lot to do with the health of your body. Swami Gitananda, this is my guru, Swami Gitananda, he actually said that the majority of people's health issues are caused from 3 things. 1 is what they eat, secondly, how they think, and thirdly, how they breathe. So if we look at those things, if we clean up how we think, clean up how we breathe, clean up how we think, clean up how we eat, and look at how we breathe and learn to breathe properly, then we can help to sort out any issues that our body has, and also help to prevent any other issues from happening. So the low abdominal area, when we breathe into this area, we call it Ardha Pranayama. So we're going to be using what we call Sparsha Mudra. Sparsha Mudra is just the hand position where we place this onto the body, and Sparsha means to touch. So when we place the hand onto the body in this particular way, by creating that connection, our mind will go to this area, and also the energy, the prana, the breath also will go to this area. So we're going to be using Sparsha Mudra as we learn to breathe into all of these different spaces in the lungs. So we'll come up and give this a little go. So if you come onto Vajrasana, I'm just going to turn around so that you can see how we practice Vajrasana. Vajrasana is where you keep the heels together and you lower yourself back down. So you'll find that the heels will come apart a little bit, but you are trying to keep them together as best you can so that you keep a nice straight spine. That way you're not restricting the lungs in any way and you're able to breathe more efficiently. There's no restriction, and we're more likely to be able to increase any lung capacity and generally breathe more easily by sitting in this position. If you can't sit in this position, you can slide a cushion or a blanket, depending on where the discomfort is. You can either place it underneath the heels if your feet won't go flat. You can place it there. You can also place it here if it's more of a knee issue. If you still aren't able to manage because you really do need to be sitting nice and straight, then you can move on to a chair, that kind of hard-backed dining room chair that will enable you to sit nice and straight, keep the feet flat on the floor. Don't lean back on the chair because we've got lung areas around the back. and you don't want to be pressing on the back of the chair to restrict the lungs in any way. All right, so let's bring our hands onto the front of the low abdominal area. So this low area of the lungs is actually the upper abdominals. With the navel sort of here and your lower ribs here, it's this area here that we place our hands on. So we're not down here on the belly. You are literally, often people have a piece of extra flesh that you can grab through the middle. It's this area here. So one of the mistakes that many people will say is to breathe into the belly. Okay, we don't have any lungs down in the belly. The belly's down here and the rib cage is up here, and this is where the lungs are. So it's a big mistake and it can create too faulty breathing. So we're going to take some nice, slow, deep breaths into the area. And what I want you to do is where the air comes into the lungs, we want this area to expand on the in-breath and contract on the out-breath. So we're just going to give it a few goes. Keep the head up nice and straight. See if you can feel what happens. Okay, because if we're not able to breathe consciously into this area, then we can get some different things happen, which means the breath actually isn't going into this space. So let's have a little try first. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. You should be seeing my hands moving really actually nice and clearly there as they move out in the in-breath. And they come back towards the spine on the out-breath. Okay, so what can happen is if we're not breathing into the abdominal area, and actually what we're doing is we're breathing up, what happens then is the hands go in when you breathe in, and they come out when you breathe out, which is actually the wrong way round. Okay, so if I just show you this, so if you're breathing into the upper chest area, you would breathe in, and then you breathe out. So you can see my hands going the opposite way. Okay, when this happens, it can take a while to learn this, especially if you've spent your whole life breathing the wrong way round. But one good technique that I've found to help people to reverse this type of breathing is what we do is we just take a normal in-breath, and I'm going to take a wrong in-breath so that my breath goes up rather than down into this abdominal area. So I'm going to breathe in. Okay, so it's gone in. And then on the out-breath, we're just going to push. Okay, so we're going to push with our hands. Then you relax the hands, and then you breathe in. And on the out-breath, you're going to push the hands again. And then if you just breathe in, you feel the hands relax. What starts to happen, it starts to work like a kind of like a bellows. And as the air sucks in from having pushed it out, you find that after a few breaths of doing this, the air will start to come into this area. And those people that are unable to breathe into this space will then start to feel this air coming into this area, and then they can start to breathe with it. And it can take, a few rounds of breath. You might find that each time you come back to practicing this area that you need to do this again, just to get that consciousness into the space and to get that air to come into the front area of the lower lungs. But it's actually a really handy technique that does really help. So if you find that you're unable to do that breath into the lower lung easily, then do some rounds of the pushing the air out and then relaxing the hands and letting the breath come in again. And where you've made that, where you've pushed the air out, then when you relax, that air then starts to draw in to that abdominal area of the lungs. All right, so from here, we're now going to take our hands onto the sides. So this is where you take your thumbs behind and the hands come onto the sides. You're grabbing those lower ribs, okay? Sometimes people can't get their thumbs behind, in which case they'll need to leave their hands that way, but otherwise the thumbs can go behind. But you do want the palms flat, so creating that connection with the Sparsha Mudra. Okay, so just do your best. And the hand positions aren't too bad at the moment. They get a bit more tricky as we go further up the lungs. All right, so just feel the sides. The sides feel like a concertina. When we play a concertina, we pull it out sideways and it moves in this direction, and the ribs move in exactly the same way. So breathing into the sides, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Each time you breathe deeply, breathing out, each deep breath we take is going to stretch the lungs. Breathing in. Breathing out. So the more deep breaths we take, the more space we're going to make. Breathing in. And breathe out. Just release the hands. Okay, we're now going to breathe onto the back area of the lower lung. And we want to get the hands onto the back like that. So the fingers are pointed towards the spine. Palms are flat on. I'll just turn around so you can see. Okay, you want to get them like this. So you're in that same low area of the lungs. And keeping the hands on the back. So focusing now onto the area where your hands is, and just focusing there. Don't worry if you can't feel the breath. Just focus on that space, and eventually the breath will follow. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Don't feel that much movement in the back, especially not in the early stages. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. All right, release the hands and stretch the legs out. Give the legs a thump. So when you revisit this recording, you can obviously pause and stretch the legs out when you need to, but I'm limited by time. I need to be able to get through all of the lungs in that space, but do pause the recording. It's quite hard sitting on your feet if you're not used to. So whilst your feet relax, I'm just going to give a little bit of information about the lungs and how they work with the body. So the low abdominal area of the lungs actually works with the body from the waist down. Okay, so when we breathe nice and deeply, that's when these nerve receptors in the lungs get affected, and this is how we get lovely, healthy, oxygenated blood around the body. So these, if we're not breathing deeply, these nerve receptors aren't affected, and we're not getting super healthy, oxygenated blood going everywhere to keep you nice and healthy. So by breathing deeply into the lower abdominal area of the lungs, you are going to be getting all this healthy, oxygenated blood pump down into the pelvic area, down into the legs, obviously back up to the heart, but the flow of blood is going down into that low area of the body. So any health issues that occur in this area, they can be all of your digestive issues. So many IBS problems I see clear up by teaching people to breathe into the lower abdominal area of the lungs. You've also got fertility issues that can be helped by breathing into the abdominal area. Because if you've got no energy going down, keeping this area of the body healthy, then issues occur. So whether it's digestive, fertility, period problems, women can suffer from, heavy periods, menses, pain, also a lot of circulatory issues in the legs. All of these issues can be attributed to not breathing into the abdominal area. The abdominal area is actually the natural place to breathe. So when you look at babies, when you look at animals, even when you're sleeping, you will probably resort back to that abdominal breath. We then, in our life, teach ourselves to breathe into different areas according to how our life affects us. So we also have the mid-chest and the upper lung area, and these two areas do have to be learnt into, which we either do unconsciously or you do in a conscious way like this. So the low abdominal area is working with that area of the body from the waist down. If you, Charlie, sorry, this is my cat. If you aren't breathing into the abdominal area, this can be for a few different things. Women often have trouble breathing into the abdominal area, and this is because women, especially in the West, I'm not sure about other cultures, I would imagine it's pretty much the same these days. Certainly, when women are younger and you start to get body image, you start to get concerned about how you look, and you want to look a particular way, and you want to look nice and slim. What happens then is if you hold the tummy in, the breath then goes up. So if you hold the tummy in really tight, because to look thin and you want to breathe, your breath then goes up. So most women have done this at some point in their lives, and this can then make you an upper chest breather rather than an abdominal breather, which will be why women have an awful lot of digestive issues, period problems, circulatory problems, and so forth. Men tend not to be so bothered about holding their tummy in the same way women are, especially when they're younger. So men tend to naturally be able to breathe a bit better into the abdominal area than women. An interesting thing, though, that I found, this is when my daughter was about 2 or 3, I was running a breathing course, because I used to teach lots of breathing courses in the community, and I used to teach them breathing courses rather than link them to yoga, just so that I would attract a lot more people. So I was teaching one of these courses, and my daughter got sent home from the nursery that she was at right before this new course was starting. So I had to take her with me. And I used her to show how you breathe into the abdominal area. So she was standing in front of me, and I just had my hands onto her abdomen. And I just said to her to breathe in, and she went in. So her abdomen went in, and it absolutely horrified me because she was so little. I just assumed that she would still naturally be breathing into that abdominal area. And it made me realise that our language has an awful lot to do with how we breathe. So in means in. So even though when we breathe, air is going into the body, so effectively the air goes in, so the body should actually expand. What people do when you say breathe in, and it's the same for if you're trying to squeeze through a small gap, if you're trying to squeeze through behind somebody's chair, you would say breathe in, and that again is reinforcing that wrong way round to breathe. All right, I think our legs have had a good enough rest. Let's come back to the Vajrasana, and we're going to move on now to the mid-chest, Majjhima Pranayama. So hands onto the front, still using Sparsha Mudra. And this is where you, with the breastbone here, this is where you feel the breastbone rise and that expansion there of the ribcage, because the ribcage is going to be doing this. So you do feel that chest lift. The mid-chest and the upper lung, when you're learning, can sometimes be quite difficult to differentiate. But with practice and through experience, you can see the difference, especially if you're teaching people to breathe. So keeping the hands onto the front. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. So this is where the stomach area flattens, the chest rises. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathe out. Breathing in. Breathing out. So I'm now going to take the hands onto the sides of the mid-chest. So we're getting a bit more awkward because we're needing to get the hands higher. So again, see if you can get that thumb behind you. If you really can't, if you need the palms flat, then you want to bring those palms forward a bit. But make sure that we're not like this and that the hands aren't too far forward. You are trying to get them as best you can. It is awkward onto the sides of the rib cage. Okay? Then you're going to get that concertina effect again. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. See the elbows rise. Breathe out and lower on the out breath. Breathing in. It's also a good one to do to see if there's any imbalance between the lungs, because you might feel. Breathe out, one arm move a little higher than the other or differently. Breathing in. And breathing out. Just release the hands, just give them a little shake as we do get some stiffness in the wrist by putting our hands into these positions. So we're now going to go onto the back area. So if you remember, we're trying to get the palms in. I'm going to turn around again so that you can see. So it's really awkward. Just do your best, getting the hands as high as you can, and you want those fingers pointing towards the spine. So we're still trying to get the palms on, because it's the palms on that creates that connection with the area of the lungs, which encourages the breath to flow into that space. And again, you don't feel so much in the back. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. and breathe out. Okay, release the arms, give those hands a little move, stretch the legs out again. Have some water. Just give the legs a little bit of something. You loosen them up. If you're not used to sitting on your heels, it can be really, really hard. And as I said, I'm flying through this. So revisiting this and pausing as you go. Just make sure you put a pause between the different areas of the lungs so that the body can catch up and keep up with what you're doing. So the mid-chest is keeping your heart healthy. It's working this whole area, the torso, also the flow that goes down into the arms. It's predominantly keeping that heart healthy by really stretching all those muscles around the heart. All those intercostal muscles between the ribs, as we breathe, each time we breathe, we're stretching them. So you might feel like you've had a good workout if you're not used to breathing deeply. You might feel some aches later in all the muscles. But the more you breathe deeply and the more you practice, all of these muscles will stretch, and you'll find that you can create a really large lung capacity. Most people don't breathe very deeply at all. We're very shallow breathers in modern times, especially because we drive a lot, we sit around a lot, we're sitting at computers, and then we naturally then don't breathe so well. If we get out in nature, go for nice walks and take some really deep breaths, then you all should know how good that feels, how it makes you feel, how revitalized, and how it brings energy in, makes you feel happier. Charlie, you really need to leave me alone. So the mid-chest is predominantly keeping the heart healthy. Women, as I said earlier, tend to breathe up a lot easier because we've spent a lifetime holding our tummies in, so we tend to breathe a lot easier into the mid-chest. Men tend not to. Men can struggle finding that mid-chest area because they're predominantly abdominal breathers, or with stress, a lot of stress and modern living becomes an upper lung breather. So a lot of men can find difficulty in finding that mid area of the space. And this could well be why men seem to have a lot more heart attacks than women. Certainly my experience of people that have had heart attacks, it always seems to be the men that seem to have them. We're going to move up into the upper lung. So the upper lung area, up here, this area can be often full of stale air, okay? Because when we breathe, we're not completely filling and completely emptying our lungs every time we breathe. If this is, the lungs, we tend to be just breathing in and out like this. But you can, if you do it now, if you just do a normal breath, now breathe in some more, okay? Now breathe out, and breathe out some more. So you find that you can always breathe in and breathe out a bit more, which just shows that we're not completely using the whole of our lungs. And what this means is we're breathing in and out, just using a part of our lungs, and the rest of the lungs has got air in, okay? If we're not breathing very well, if we're not circulating the air properly, if we're not emptying the lungs very often, then we can get stale air just trapped in the lungs. And this stale air will trap itself in the top area of the lungs, okay? Because air rises, so any air that's going to get trapped will just get trapped in that upper area. So if you have any headaches, allergies, sinus problems, anything at all to do with the head, fogginess, this can be because there is stale air in that upper area of the lungs. I know that if ever I get a headache, if I focus on my breath, I would always have a tightness in my upper lung area. So if I do some practices to clear this air out, and we do have some special practices that specifically focus on this upper area. These are very specific to Gitananda Yoga, and these practices will literally pump that stale air out of the upper lung. We're not going to do those today, but we are going to do a little bit of breathing into this space and try and get some awareness here. So try and completely empty the lungs as we breathe, and see if you can feel the area as we go. My reason for doing a 6 count, I've been counting a 6 count, that is the length of counts that should be possible for any adult. Unfortunately, in modern times, it's not. Lots of adults struggle to get to even 2, 3 or 4. If this is the case for you, then find out what's comfortable for you and do your practicing for 1 count more. So if you can do 3 easily, do it for 4. Try and stretch the breath out for 4. If 4 is easy, do it for 5 and so on. But a 6 count really is the starting point, or should be the starting point for most adults. Providing you're not stressed or under any tension, if the heartbeat is nice and calm, use your own heartbeat as your count. Otherwise, you can use the seconds of a clock. But the seconds of a clock are actually just a little bit fast, really. But if you're actually teaching and you're teaching a group of people, then you will need to use something more like seconds of a clock to keep everybody together. So coming back up to Vajrasana, keeping those heels together behind you. We're now going to bring the hands onto the front area and the upper lung area. If you have a feel now, you can feel a paddy area across here. So with the collarbone here, you feel this paddy bit here across towards the armpit area. That's the upper lungs. And this is where we place the hands out. I think you can see my camera is looking a little bit bleached out. It's gone sunny outside. Okay. So we're just going to focus where the hands are and try and do a little bit of deep breathing into this space. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. We're now going to breathe into the sides of the upper lung. So we're not going to be putting our hands all the way up in our armpits. What we do, bring our hands down just under the waist, onto the hips. And what this does, this creates a space in the armpit area, and it encourages the breath to flow out into the sides of the upper lung. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. release the hands. So breathing into the upper area of the upper lungs, I want you to raise the arms all the way up, bend at the elbows and place the hands onto the back, just sort of little tips of the sides of the little fingers will touch as you're either side of the spine. And just get the hands, keeping the elbows as high as you can, just do the best that you can manage. Breathe it in, the back area, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, you really don't feel so much in the back area of the upper lung. Breathing out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. And release the arms. Just give the shoulders a little roll if there's any tension in the shoulders. And then you can stretch the legs out again. A little bit of thumping, a little bit of shaking of the head. Just releasing any stiffness and tension as you feel it come into the body. The feet a little shake. So this is how you learn to breathe. Okay, so it's not something that can be done quickly. It's something that needs to be taken, do it over time, take practice. So you have the low, the mid, the upper, and you also have the front, the sides, and the back. So when we come to take a deep breath to fill the whole of the lungs, this is where we use these 3 different areas. And what we do is we breathe into the low abdominal first, then into the mid-chest, and then into the upper. And then you breathe out from the low first, and the mid-chest, and then the upper. Okay, so the breath comes in low, mid, upper, and it leaves low, mid, and upper. What the breath actually does, because the breath, as much as it comes in and out in that order, it also goes to the front area first, then the sides, and then the back on the in-breath, and the breath leaves from the back and the sides and the front as you breathe out. So to do a complete breath in that low, mid, upper order as I just mentioned then, the breath would come into the front of the low, push it out, front of the low sides, then the low back, then it would go mid-front, mid-sides, mid-back, then upper front, upper sides and back. And to breathe out, it would be back of the low, the sides and the front, back of the mid, sides and the front, and back of the upper, sides and the front. I kind of like to see it as it's like doing swimming breaststrokes, but it's also kind of a spiraling action as you breathe, which is quite nice to imagine it. You know, see if you can feel it. Some people feel these different areas of the lungs quite easily. Other people really struggle and don't get to feel, so don't be disheartened if you can't feel it, and if you're not sure where the breath is going. Keep that practice up with the hands on, and you will notice a difference. Even just breathing slower and deeper so that you're filling and emptying the lungs, you're going to get a huge difference in how you feel, your energy levels, how you look. If you have any sort of anxiety, these types of things can start to lower. You generally get a good feel-good thing about breathing deeply. So don't be disheartened, as I said, if you can't feel anything, because it really can take a while to start to feel any of these things. Let's come up and breathe into the whole of the lungs. Let's give this a little go. So if we have the mid-chest just in front of the mid-chest and the lower underneath, what we're going to do this, we're going to breathe into the low, then into the mid, and then into the upper. I'm just going to sort of touch the hands onto the different area as we breathe. Okay? And this is going to be like a 2 count into each area. So just do your best, see if you can feel it. But as I said, the Sparsha Mudra, it actually works with the brain and the respiratory center. Mudras, I like to explain mudras like a light switch, electricity. A mudra is something that we can do in yoga, which will create a connection where energy travels and you get a reaction. Okay, so with your light switch, you switch your light on, electricity runs and the light comes on. Okay, so we're doing similar things with our body using the hands. This is called Sparsha Mudra. This will send, and it will the messages travel through the body, through the nervous system. So this will send a message up to the brain, which will tell the respiratory system that we are wanting to breathe into these different areas of the lungs. And the respiratory system is actually split into a left and right and a low, mid and an upper, in the same way that the lungs are. So all of these connections are actually corresponding to or stimulating the different areas that we're working on within the respiratory systems, respiratory center. So these hands-on positions, other than making you feel the area of the lungs, it is also working with the brain and the respiratory system, giving that added benefit as well. So let's do the complete breath. Okay, so you can have the right hand. I'm not sure if the video is coming out as this being my right hand. It might be a bit back to front sometimes. Videoing does that, but hopefully it'll look like I'm doing my right hand too. So we're going to go right, left, and right to the upper. And then we need to bring the hand back down for the right. It's always low, mid, and upper. So low, mid, upper, and then low, mid, upper on the in and the out breath. Okay? And making sure this hand hasn't gone down onto the belly or anything. You are keeping these 3 separate areas of the lungs. So breathing into the low, mid, upper. Breathing out from the low, mid, upper. Breathing in low, mid, upper. Breathing out low, mid, upper. Breathing in low, mid, upper. Breathing out low, mid, upper. Breathing in low, mid, upper. Breathing out low, mid, and upper. Okay, so one last thing, I've still got just a few minutes. I thought I would introduce just very quickly. And one of the things to remember with this is never to replace your practice with this. Okay, there's a different mudra for the abdominal area, there's a mudra for the mid breath, there's a mudra for the upper lung, and there's a mudra for the complete breath. Okay, I'm just going to show you them. We don't have time to practice them, but I want you to know them. So you can add them to your practice, but don't do them instead of the hands-on breathing, because if you do them instead of, then you might find that you cannot consciously breathe into these different areas of the lungs, that you can only breathe into these different areas of the lungs when you use the different hasta hand positions, the hasta mudras, as you do them. So they're like an additional thing rather than a quick fix instead of. So the hasta mudra for the lower lung is called chin mudra. This is for this is where you bring the thumb and forefinger together. Make sure you get a really good circle together. You can see that nicely in front of my black t-shirt. The other 3 fingers are straight, and the hands are just rested on the very tops of the thighs. But if the fingers extended forward slightly, they would make a triangle. So they're not straight, they're just in slightly. And the fingers aren't pulled back or anything like that. It's all just rested nicely onto the tops of the thighs. So this will encourage the breath to go into the low area of the lungs, Ardha, Pranayama. Okay, so for the mid-chest then, you then keep the thumb and forefinger together. You're curling those 3 fingers all the way in. This is Chin Maya Mudra. The hands are rested again onto the tops of the thighs, and this works with Madhyama Pranayama, the mid-chest. And then for the upper, for the upper lung, you bring your thumbs into your palms, fingers wrap all the way around, and they again rest down. So making sure you're not up onto any of the knuckles, you're down on the palms are straight, you're literally just curling all the fingers in. So this is Adi Mudra for Ajima Pranayama, the very top area of the lungs. And then for the complete breath, you keep these together, but we turn them the other way up. And if you had rings on both hands, you would be bringing these together. This is called Brahma Mudra. This is for the complete breath, the grand yoga breath. Making sure the hands aren't up by the chest, they are down by the navel. It's almost like they are encasing the whole of the lungs. And if you do breathe with the hands high, you will feel a difference as to how much air you can get into the lungs. So this is to breathe the low, mid and upper on the in-breath and the low, mid and upper on the out-breath. Okay, so we've covered everything in one session. It does take a lot of practice to learn how to breathe properly into the lungs. One extra thing I will tell you very quickly before I say goodbye, and that is if you're unsure, if you're able to do this in front of a mirror, just to get yourself started, because you can see the different areas of the lungs. Okay, because if you're breathing into the lower lung and any chest is moving or shoulders are moving, then you're not doing it. You're not breathing into the right area, okay? So when we breathe into the lower lung, nothing else really moves, not really, okay? Mid-chest, this chest rises, not too much movement in the shoulder, and this area here flattens, okay? And then when we breathe into the upper lung, I'm going to breathe now, so you can see. A little bit of movement kind of around here, but it's not anything like that. So it's really handy to have a quick look at what you're doing in front of a mirror, because a lot of people will do this kind of thing, and it's not really going to give the right breathing effects. The breathing should be gentle but deep, so that you feel all the areas. Often when we do this kind of breath, it's a very forced breath into where we've kind of programmed ourselves to breathe often. Okay, so there's just a few little tips there to help you get going. But I really need to say goodbye now, and thank you all for spending this time with me, spending a little time learning to breathe. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions that are running. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti 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 Om